In Chapter 3, we're going to be looking at the numerical methods for describing data distributions. So this is going to build on our graphical methods for describing data, but now we're going to be looking at things like the mean or the median, and even how things vary using the standard deviation and the range. But I want us to first look at a study that was performed where they looked to see whether or not people overestimated the extent to which physical exercise can compensate for food consumption. And so these studies have shown that this does sometimes occur. Well, there was an additional study that wanted to investigate whether just thinking about exercise could lead to an increased food consumption. So there was an experiment performed where people read a short essay and they answered a few questions about the essay. One of the essays was unrelated to exercise, so that was our control group. Some of them read an essay that described listening to music while taking a 30-minute walk, which was considered the fun group, something that was not a strenuous activity. And then some read an essay that described strenuous exercise. And some read an essay that described strenuous exercise, and that was considered the exercise group. So the way that this study was able to determine whether or not thinking about exercise could lead to increased food consumption is the people were focused on reading these essays and answering questions about the essays. But the experimenters were actually also providing participants with 2 bags of snacks, Chex Mix and M&Ms, and they allowed the people to help themselves to the snacks. But what they did after the study was they actually weighed the bags that they selected to determine the number of calories of snacks that they had taken. So they collected the trash from each participant to see how much they had eaten out of the bags. And what's interesting is described here in these 3 dot plots. This is the number of calories that were consumed by each group of participants. And the control group, you see that most of the values were there around the 300 to 350. Some were a little bit lower, but the highest was 500. Notice in the fun group where they were reading about exercise that all of the values were more than 500. So we already see that there was a big difference between how many calories consumed by the control group, where they read about an essay not related to exercise, and then the group that was reading the essay about the relaxing walk. Now, the fun group and the exercise group, you see somewhat of a difference. The average is different in both of these cases where it's centered around. It looks like the exercise group did overall consume more calories, but it's not quite as distinct as it was from the control group to either the fun or the exercise group. So what we're going to be doing in this chapter is we're going to learn some of the methods that we can use to describe numerically data that we encounter, such as this one.